Hey guys, my name is Aldas, and in today's video I'm going to be completing my Downfall of Williams series with part 3. Now this series has been a huge one once again, fantastic support, amazing feedback, and you guys clearly loved it. So it's good to finally finish it, but very happy, and hopefully this will be another good episode. Now last time out we talked about the Williams BMW partnership during the the early to mid 2000s, and then we also talked about sort of the later years of Williams when they of course had Nico Rosberg and Nakajima, and sort of them falling into the midfield after losing the BMW partnership. You guys also pointed out a couple of mistakes that I made, such as obviously BMW being with Brabham, and also a big one, Adrian Newey leaving Williams at the end of the 90s. And I actually knew that one and forgot to mention it in part 1, so sorry about that. It's just me being a bit of a mug, basically. I'm forgetting that because that is a really big part, so thank you for the guys that said it. But yeah, like I said, in this episode we are going to be talking about sort of the early 2010s with the Cosworth and Renault days, and then more recently with the hybrid era as well. So hopefully it will be a good one. Now once again, if you enjoyed the content here, then don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Once again, I always say that I'm on the road to 10k before the end of the year, and hopefully with your help I can get there. That'll be massive. But yeah, let's get into the video. Now, in this episode, we are going to start off in 2010. Now, at this point, Williams had two brand new drivers with Roos Barrichello and Nico Hlkenberg. Now, first of all, Roos Barrichello, a very experienced, the most experienced Formula 1 driver of all time, actually. More race starts than any other driver. So, even in 2010, he was a very good Formula 1 driver. And, of course, just came off the back of a very successful time at Brawn, winning a couple of races, losing the championship to Jenson Button. But a good driver nonetheless, you know, very experienced and definitely knows what he's doing. And of course, Nico Hlkenberg as well, a very talented rookie at the time who had a really good pedigree from the lower formula. And a very good lineup actually for 2010. And it turned out to be a very decent season. One thing I will actually say, just really quickly, for the next 4 years in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, it was usually like a yo-yo. They had sort of a bad season, a good season, and then a bad season, another good season. So it was really quite a weird period for Williams. But 2010 did turn out to be a decent season. They ended up finishing 6th in the championship, and in some ways you can say sort of best of the rest. Because when you look at the teams that were above them, you know, obviously, of course, you have the obvious ones like Ferrari, McLaren, and everything like that. But when you look at also Renault and Mercedes, those were actually teams that managed to get podiums and quite consistent points as well. So in terms of the real midfield teams, they were sort of best of the rest really in 2010 and had a very decent season. So not too bad. In 2010, they were powered by the Cosworth engine after switching from Toyota from 2009. And they definitely, one thing I will say about Williams actually, and just quickly coming back to their driver lineup, they do have a knack of actually picking up really good young talent. It's absolutely undeniable. I mean, when you look at Nico Hlkenberg, you look at Nico Rosberg, Valtteri Bottas even, maybe even George Russell, which we don't know of course, and even Juan Pablo Montoya actually, all the way back to the BMW years. They do have a knack for picking up some good young drivers, so undoubtable about that. But yeah, like I said, so overall 2010 was quite a good season. Some of the highlights were Barrichello being very consistent at scoring points, and also a pole position for Nico Hlkenberg in changeable conditions in Brazil, and really having a very strong end to the season. So overall, a good 2010 and a step forward for them, that's for sure. Now, going into the following year in 2011, they had a driver change. Rubens Barrichello had stayed at the team, but Nico Hlkenberg, and this was a big surprise, that he actually got dropped by the team after quite a strong finish, and he definitely is a good driver. And we've obviously seen, even up to today, he is a quality driver. They decided to drop him, which I think it was a mistake, and instead they took Pastor Maldonado. The man, the myth, the legend. And at the time, Frank Williams was very complimentary of Pastor and said that he was very impressed with him in the junior categories. But yeah, Pastor Maldonado. Now, he came with obviously a lot of money, and we all know Williams and money. There you go, 1 and 2. And yeah, so Pastor came with quite a bit of money from Venezuela. There was an oil company I think he's part of. And yeah, so the 2011 combination was Barrichello and Maldonado. They switched for another youngster and kept the experience of Barrichello. And it turned out not to work. It was a horrible season for Williams, and it was their worst in their history as Williams since they formed. It was really just a lack of car performance, and also Maldonado, if we're being honest, not delivering. He had so many retirements in his rookie season. He had 6 retirements and countless crashes in both Monaco and Malaysia, just to name a few. There was incidents with Lewis Hamilton in Spa in qualifying, and this was a ridiculous one. This is where we're going to get into Maldonado a little bit later, but this is where we sort of saw the beginning of Pastor Maldonado. I mean, the Spa qualifying issue with Lewis Hamilton, and if you don't know what happened, there was a bit of argy-bargy going on, and during qualifying, he swiped across Lewis Hamilton, and I can't show you the footage, but what I will do is link in the description. There's a video from Daily Motion, and just click on it and just watch basically what happened during the qualifying. And it was just the beginning of really ridiculous behavior from Pastor. And obviously, like I previously said, it was a horrible season altogether in 2011. I mean, the only, if there is only one good thing from it, is that, I mean, Roos Barrichello actually had a decent drive that season. He scored a couple points in a couple of occasions, and was on the fringe of points quite a lot, and really outpaced his teammate by miles. Rubens Barrichello actually had a pretty decent season considering how bad the car was in 2011, especially compared to Pastor Maldonado. And this is again where it gets ridiculous, because for the 2012 season, first of all, they decided to get rid of Barrichello, not re-sign him, and sign Bruno Senna, which I think is just ridiculous, because Barrichello did a decent job in 2011, especially when you compare how poor Maldonado was. So to drop him, it just doesn't make sense. This is the Nico Hlkenberg thing all over again. So again, another thing about Williams is that they just do not seem to make the right decisions, especially driver-wise. And of course, another very, very big thing and a very, very big move is the move to Renault engines for 2012 and to ditch Cosworth. Now, this was, in my opinion, a very good move, because Cosworth were really only supplying engines to the back markers and sort of the back end of the grid. So I do think it was a very, very good thing to go to Renault for 2012. And another piece of very, very big business that was actually lost by Williams is AT&T, who were their title sponsor from 2009 to 2011. A very, very big sponsor loss there, but apparently the split was amicable, so clearly AT&T just didn't want to be part of Formula 1 anymore. So obviously not good for Williams, but they did have a much better 2012 now. Obviously with Pastor Maldonado and Bruno Senna now racing for the team, it was so much better than 2011, because that was a really, really poor season. And of course, this was the year of Pastor Maldonado getting a win for Williams in Barcelona. Now, despite what I've already said about Pastor and all the crashes that he has, he does have raw pace. I will not deny that for a second. He is a quick driver, but he is nowhere near as consistent as he needs to be. But despite this, of course, he did get that famous win, which is the last win Williams have had. But once again, that consistency is so lacking with Maldonado, because despite that win, which helped him immensely in terms of points, he only managed to finish in the points 5 times that season, compared to Bruno Senna, who managed to finish 10 times in the points. Maldonado did obviously finish ahead of Bruno Senna, but massively helped by that win. And again, had a raft of retirements and a huge amount of crashes as well, including crashes with Lewis Hamilton, Valencia, and then one in Australia when he was going to score a massive amount of points, actually. So again, Maldonado plagued by not only good talent, but also a bit of a reckless nature there as well. Now, after finishing 8th in 2012 and having quite a good season, once again they had another driver change. So for 2013, they decided to keep on Pastor Maldonado, of course, having a good financial backing, and decided to take on Valtteri Bottas, who was their reserve driver. A very good talent, as we know, but sadly, this would be another horrible season for Williams. They ended up finishing 9th in the championship, and it just a really, really bad car for 2013. They only finished in the points actually twice, with the best finish being for Valtteri, an 8th in the USA, meaning he actually finished ahead of Maldonado. So not really much to say about 2013. A very, very poor season with a very, very poor car, with the Renault engine, of course. But one of the biggest news of 2013, and in my opinion, one of the biggest catalysts in the downfall of Williams, was the signing as team principal of Claire Williams, the daughter of Frank Williams. Now, this was a big mistake in my opinion. And of course, if you don't know Claire, she is of course, part of the Williams family, and actually at the time was in 2010 was head of communications, and then in 2011 was head of marketing and communications, before in 2013 becoming the team principal. Now, this was a very big mistake by Williams, in my opinion, to sign her as the team principal, because there is such a lack of experience there, which will definitely show in the future, as I'm about to talk about. But this was a big mistake to sign her. I think at the time, in my opinion, people like Stefano Domenicali and Martin Whitmarsh, actually, who had just been dropped by Ferrari and Williams respectively, I think would have been much better candidates, because despite obviously them being dropped by their former teams, these people have top end experience. They had been principals at the top level of Formula One, and they just have the experience that she just did not have. Being a marketing and communications sort of manager doesn't scream to me Formula One team principal experience. But at the end of the day, she was announced as the future team principal of Williams. Now, going into the 2014 season, there were so many different changes, not just in the sport, but of course in Williams. I've already mentioned that it was Claire Williams that was now the team principal, but there was also an engine change to the Mercedes power unit for 2014, and another driver change as well with Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas. Now, one thing I will mention at this point is that by 2014, Williams have had 6 years with 6 different driver pairings. 2009, of course, it was Nakajima and Rosberg. Then we had Hlkenberg and Barrichello. Then Barrichello and Maldonado. Then Maldonado and Senna. Then Maldonado and Bottas. And now Massa and Bottas. 6 different driver pairings in 6 years. I mean, that is really not good enough at all. I mean, if you don't have a consistent driver pairing, how are you ever going to create sort of stability in the team? But happily, the next 2 drivers with Massa and Bottas did end up staying in the team for a while. And 2014 was a fantastic year for them. Not only did they get a title sponsor in Martini, which obviously came with loads of money, they also got Rob Smedley, who came along with Felipe Massa, who was now the head of engineering at Williams, and had a fantastic season, getting pole in Austria with a 1-2 and a whole raft of podiums as well. 9 podiums altogether for the team, finishing 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, and Valtteri Bottas emerging as a bit of a star, finishing 4th in the Drivers' Championship. Now, despite this incredible season for them in 2014, where they had, podiums galore, and it looked like the old Williams was back, in the next couple of years, which I'll just quickly run through now, it turned out very, very quickly that it was less Williams doing incredible development as a team, and it was more the might of the Mercedes power unit that was really delivering them this success. In the next couple of years, they began to decline. Although in 2015 they did manage to still get 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, they actually only managed to get 4 podiums compared to 9 in the previous season. And then in 2016 they only managed 1 podium. So they really began to decline there, and it clearly showed that it was the Mercedes power unit in the early hybrid era that was giving them that success. By 2016, by the end of the season, the car just was not competitive enough to even go up against the Force India, despite the Mercedes engine. The only reason they did finish high up in the midfield, but in 5th, is because Renault and Honda were really a bit, sort of asleep, trying to develop at that point. Of course, Honda was just having their own troubles, and Renault only just came back into the sport. So Williams did have a bit of a cushion, but they were declining fast, and people were noticing. Now, towards the end of 2016, obviously the biggest announcement in Formula 1, not only did we have a brand new champion in Nico Rosberg, but we also had a sudden retirement as well, with Nico leaving Mercedes. Now, this caused a shockwave through Formula 1, as we already know, and the empty seat was taken up by Valtteri Bottas. Now, this was actually a little bit of bad news for Williams, because Valtteri Bottas had actually been the team's top scorer since he started in 2013, so they were losing probably their biggest asset in terms of drivers. And what was sort of even more difficult is that Felipe Massa had earlier in the season announced his retirement. So obviously after Felipe retired, their lineup was a brand new driver in Lance Stroll, who was a previous Ferrari Academy driver, and Valtteri Bottas. But with Valtteri gone, they only had a young rookie with no one else. So of course they begged Felipe Massa to come back, and Williams are very lucky that he did, because he made a huge impact. And for 2017, they needed, you can't just fish around the grid and try and find a driver last minute to partner up with a rookie. You need someone solid. And once again, they are very lucky that they did manage to get Felipe Massa back for 2017 for one last season with them. Now, moving into the 2017 season with obviously Lance Stroll and Felipe Massa now the brand new driver pairing, this was another quite good season for them. They actually started development of the 2017 car very, very early on in 2016, which was widely known and was one of the reasons for the poor development of the 2016 car. And it showed good performance. It did get 1 podium with Lance Stroll in Baku and had very, very good straight line capabilities. And I want you guys to remember this because this was a very, very big point for Williams. Their car was very, very good on circuits with long straights, so Baku, Monza, circuits like that. And 2017 was another good year for them, with Massa getting the better of his rookie teammate with 13-point finishes and Lance Stroll only getting 7-point finishes. But one of the biggest positives of the 2017 season looked like the signing of Paddy Lowe, who came from the world champions Mercedes and was the new chief technical officer. Now, at the time, and I'll admit, I thought this was a very, very good move, and it still could be. He is, of course, he did have massive success with Mercedes during the hybrid era, and he was in charge of designing the car, and he was put in charge of designing the 2018 car, trying to push the team forward into a new direction, trying to build upon what they have already had in 2017 after these brand new reg changes that we had in 2017. So yeah, it all looked really, really good, and of course, at the end of the season with Felipe Massa gone, they had a free seat at Williams. Now, this was at the time when Robert Kubica started coming back into the picture for a race seat, and of course they also had Sergei Sorokin as well. And after an Abu Dhabi test in 2017, they decided to go with Sergei Sorokin, who was widely known to be a bit of a pay driver. Now, one thing I will say at this point is that the lineup for 2018, and this is where Williams took a massive turn, and of course we all know about 2018, Williams at this point had the image of being not a very good team. Their driver lineup consisted of a pay driver in Sergei Sorokin and Lance Stroll, who basically with his dad's money had bought the seat in Formula 1. So the image of the team and I'll talk about this in a second actually when we talk about 2019 and the future, but the image of the team coming into 2018 was just so bad. A pay driver and a guy who basically was run by his dad's money. It just did not look good for Williams, and the 2018 season, as we know, turned out to be an even worse season and a real downfall of Williams. And now, of course, we come to 2018, and everything I've been saying in these videos for the downfall of Williams series has really culminated in 2018. And what I mean by this is that all the points I've been trying to raise, the poor management by Claire Williams, who shouldn't have been there in the first place, the poor driver choices that she has made, and also the poor development that has happened. Paddy Lowe coming in, and what basically has happened is he has built a horrible car. He has tried to replicate what he's seen at the top teams in Ferrari and Mercedes and really overestimated how much he can do at Williams, and the car has had so many problems. And just to make it short and sweet for you guys, the two biggest problems this year in terms of the car and what's making it basically a backmarker team is number one, cooling at the start of the year, and Paddy not getting the packaging right, and the aerodynamics. He has tried to, as I said before, Williams had a very good car in a straight line, and Paddy Lowe tried to improve its aerodynamics and its ability to handle round corners, and he is backfired massively. He has not been able to deliver a car, and actually he's made it worse in all areas. So clearly he has had a shocking season in terms of car development. Trying to copy Mercedes' complicated design has not worked, and produced a dog of a car. So, they've had major aero problems. Their car is so draggy as well. And the car development, when you look at Sauber and where they've started at the start of the season, has been awful. And coupled together with the fact that they have two very inexperienced drivers, everything I've been trying to say through these episodes has culminated in a shocking 2018. All the decisions they have made is where they have ended up now. I don't think Lance Stroll and Sergei Sorokin are bad drivers. I do not think that for a second. Especially Sergei Sorokin, I think he's had a decent season. Some of his performances, like in Monaco, really deserved points if it wasn't for, again, Williams having problems. So I don't think they have bad drivers, but they're inexperienced and they can't help the development of the car and where it is now. So where are we towards the end of the season? Williams are at the back. They've only had, a couple of points finishes, and not only that, but they have now lost the Martini sponsorship as well. But of course, now we know that Lance Stroll and Sergei Sorokin will not be racing for 2019, and there is a very big shift in Williams. They have now signed Robert Kubica and George Russell, and if you remember earlier in the video when I said that when they did sign Sergei Sorokin and Lance Stroll, it was a bit of a downer. The fans were just like, oh wow, you've got pay drivers and everything like that. The team is almost raising its spirits back up. Now they've got a young rookie who is exciting in George Russell, and a fan favourite Robert Kubica, who has had one of the best stories coming back into Formula 1. So there is a bit more hope in Williams now, but they do have a lot of work to do in my opinion. And where this entire three-part series, the way I'm going to summarize it and how I think Williams should go ahead is, number one, brand new management. I think Claire Williams should still stay within the team and of course be within the Williams family as she belongs, but someone more experienced within Formula 1 and how to develop the team back to where it needs to be. Paddy Lowe to really get his act together and stop thinking about copying Ferrari and Mercedes and start thinking about the Williams team and where the car was in 2017 and what it should develop into, and focus on the drivers and giving them lasting career at Williams and not so easily giving them out to bigger and better teams. I mean, how many times have we seen incredible talent like Nico Rosberg, Hlkenberg, and Valtteri Bottas being dropped or taken away by bigger teams? So that's my sort of short and sweet summary of what I think Williams should do. And as I said, I'm very excited to see what they can do in 2019. I'm not expecting them to jump up massively and now be fighting for podiums, but I really hope to see progress with these two drivers, that's for sure. And I really hope that this is the end of the downfall of Williams, because I would love to see them back competing for podiums and being a fantastic British team and creating incredible history as we know they can. So yeah, guys, that is the end of the downfall of William series. This last part has been very long, but hopefully really enjoyable as well. Of course, there is still so much stuff to mention about Williams, and I'm sure you guys have your own opinion as well. I didn't even, begin to mention stuff like obviously Rob Smedley leaving and all the other stuff as well. And there's so much to the Williams story, and I would love to know what you guys think. So yeah, comment in the box below on what you thought on this series. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What do you think of Williams in general? And also, what kind of videos would you love to see from me over the next couple of months? Because of course the Formula 1 season is ending. I've got so many ideas, but I would also love to know what would you guys want to see. So yeah, like I said, comment in the box below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe as well. I'm trying to get to 10,000 before the end of the year. That would be amazing because I love doing these videos, and YouTube is definitely treating me well, and I'm loving every single second of it. But once again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.